All right, everyone, welcome back to the Tonto's Demise Week 3 recap. Sorry we missed Week 2. I was too busy in Texas attending to more important matters, some Pearl Jam shows, good times, great food. Everywhere we went, Austin's reputation lives up to the hype. Everywhere we went, everything that we had and ordered, all the food I had, amazing. It was so good. Whether it was tacos, pizza, burgers, barbecue, oh man, everything was amazing. Sorry I missed out on the events of week 2. Nothing exciting happened probably. So we'll just pretend like it never happened. How about that? That work for? I'm sure that works for some of you guys. But anyway, let's get into the wild week 3 that it was. Several people going over 1, 2, 3, 4 teams over 200. A couple teams in the 190s. Yeah, big performances this past week, including the Miami Dolphins. Ed being the main beneficiary there. Justin had Tyreek Hill. He had a good game, but nothing quite like Mostert did. Disco had no Waddle and no Ashane. I guess is that how you pronounce his last name. He was on your bench. Obviously, we all know there was no reason to be having him in your starting lineup before this week. Was it bound to happen? I don't know. But a monumentally dismal performance by the Denver Broncos defense this week. So they gave up 70 points. I was chatting a little bit with Bigler earlier and told him that the best part of all of that was that the guy at work who loves the Denver Broncos got to tease him a little bit today. And the best part of all of that was that he was slicing onions and obviously started crying a little bit, tears coming out of his eyes, and the jokes just wrote themselves, really. Poor guy. But anyway, let's get into the events of week 3. As always, we start with the defending champion, Biscuits and Porn, who came up on the wrong side of the only 200 versus 200 matchup this week. Jim, your score would have beaten everybody except Brian and Ed. And unfortunately, you faced one of those two people. Let's see. Hillbillies on PCP gets the victory. The score was 222.7 to 208.45. For Hillbillies, Lamar Jackson goes for 55 points. Pickens, Pittman, and Shaheed, 11.5, 16.5, and 6. Actually, Shaheed gets 9 because all the points you got from him were a kick return touchdown. Matheson and Etienne both go for 17.5. Kelsey gets you 20, motivated by someone who was in the house that day, I believe. We'll see what happens there. I'm sure you all know what we're talking about, all you Swifties out there. Let's see. In the flex, Algier goes for 5. And the biggest factor here, Brian's buns really are what carried him through this matchup. At 55 from Jackson. Bass, your kicker from Buffalo, actually goes for about 16. And then the Buffalo Bills defense, Yahoo says 39. I believe your score actually ended up being, we tacked on about 18 to that. 54, 57, something like that. But they just completely trashed the Washington Commanders 4 interceptions, 9 sacks, only 3 points allowed. Yeah, it was a defensive feast for Brian this week, and his buns really over 100 points, 110 points probably just from those two. Yeah, the rest of your team just had to show up. For Biscuits and Porn, so unfortunately for him, he made the right move finally of putting Kirk Cousins in his starting lineup. He goes for 63.35. I guess you guys can all see now why I was so upset when you sniped Kirk Cousins away from me when I was 100% drafting him a couple of picks later, and Jim drafts him as his second quarterback. Cousins has gone for 55, 66, and 63 the first weeks of this season. Ugh, if I could just have had those points, I don't think it would have won me this week, but I would feel way more comfortable than I do now. I just remember people being like, I can't believe that Kirk Cousins was so desired. But I guess you understand now. Anyway, I digress. Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, and Jacoby Myers, 7, 18.5, 15.5. Bijan, 10, Jacobs, 11, Kittle, 16, Brian Robinson, 7. Matt's Gay really tried hard in this one, kicking field goals all day long, getting Indianapolis past Baltimore. 24, maybe 25 and a half, something like that from your kicker. Gonna have to look into that. He made 4 50-plus field goals. That's 20 points right there. In the Patriots defense, Yahoo says 14. You look like you got a pretty significant bump as well. Maybe about 18. I don't think maybe 21 to about 30, 32, 35 points, something like that. So nearly 100 from your buns, Jim, but unfortunately the stuff in the middle couldn't quite keep up with Brian's, and you said you lost by about 14 points there, 14 and a half. Yeah, a matchup that could have gone either way. Unfortunately, Jim, just bad luck this week. Said anytime you go over 200, you expect to win. Can't really hang your head about this one. Just the way it goes sometimes. Hillbillies with the victory. He moves to 2-1. He is in 5th place. While Biscuits and Porn, unfortunately, drops to 1-2, and he is in 8th place. Let's see. Instead of going straight down my line, I'm going to go up my line here. And we will talk about Yinzer Jags versus Getting Gritty. This one came down to Monday night. And Yinzer Jags, thanks to the strength of the Philadelphia Eagles defense against Tampa Bay, was able to pull out a last-minute victory over Getting Gritty, who gave it the old college try, but couldn't quite get there with Mixon last night, Mixon and Swift. Let's see, Yinzer Jags. He gets the victory 202.35 to 192.45. So a 10-point victory here. Yinzer Jags has Hurst go for 43.5. DJ Moore, Mike Williams, and Jalen Reed, 13, 25, and 9.3. Although I see Mike Williams now has an IR tag next to him. He has been diagnosed with a season-ending ACL injury, so he is done for the year. Looks like, I believe Yinzer Jags still has Quentin Johnson on his bench. I imagine there will be some heated action on waivers tonight, trying to pick up Josh Palmer, the other wide receiver for the Chargers there. Let's see. Ken Walker Couple of touchdowns, 100 yards for him. He gets you 30.5 points. Jalen Warren, just over 8. Laporta gets you 22.5. Robert Woods in the flex, 6.5. Carlson, your kicker, gets you about 3 point something. And then the Eagles defense, Yahoo says 19, but you got about a 21 or so point bump. They're up to about 40, something like that, maybe 42. Yeah, and it was just enough to get past Getting Gritty, who had said Mixon and Swift on Monday night. I think that's everybody that he had. I'll take a look at my sheet here. Where's your matchup? Yeah. You had Hurts. Yinzer Jags had Hurts and Eagles D. And then he had Mixon and Swift. Going into this, going into Monday night, Getting Gritty, Zach's team had a lead of about 42. Said Jalen Hurts covered that difference. And despite Mixon and Swift combining for about 32 points, it wasn't quite enough, as the Eagles defense said was able to cover that. So they must have gotten, said about 40 or 42 there. So just the way it goes there. Sorry, Getting Gritty. Knocking you to 0-3. Let's see. You weren't sure what Burrow was going to be doing, so you took him out, put in Jordan Love. Turned out to be a better move for you because Burrow went for 36, but Love ended up going for almost 48. Justin Jefferson gets one more. He needed one more receiving yard to get you a 3-point bonus there. Couldn't quite get it. He gets you just under 28. Kirk gets you 15.5. Adam Thielen goes bonkers. 31.5 points for him. Mixon 14, Swift 17.8. Zach Ertz, unfortunately, only 2.5. And Herbert in your flex, only 3.5 from him. So disappointing performances from those couple of people. If you would have had, Ertz was doing pretty well up to this point. I don't know, if debatable if you would have played Musgrave or not over him. But yeah, just looking at your bench there, Getting Gritty, not really sure there's much that you could have done looking back in hindsight to have changed the outcome of this matchup based on your lineup, just the way it went. Butker, your kicker, gets about 13, and then your Saints defense, Yahoo says 16. That must have been pretty close because you didn't get much of a bump. Must have been about 19, it looks like. But yeah, you got into the 190s, did pretty well, probably deserved a victory in this one, but unfortunately it was not meant to be. Yinzer Jags, he moves out of the basement, goes to 1-2. He's in 10th place, while Getting Gritty gets knocked down to the basement. He is 0-3, and he is in 12th place. All right, we got Ed Logger versus Possum Magic. And Possum Magic, not much magic so far this year. He gets taken pretty handily here by almost 90 points. Ed Logger, 231 to Possum Magic's 147.9. For Ed Logger, Patrick Mahomes goes for 52.5. Devontae Adams, we'll just say him because they both scored the exact same thing. Devontae Adams and Mostert both go for 45.2 each. So that's 90, 142, 143. Ed gets almost enough points just from Patrick Mahomes, Devontae Adams, and Raheem Mostert? Yes. To get those three were almost enough to get the victory by themselves. Unfortunately, there, Possum. Mike Evans goes for 17. Scary Terry 10. Javonte Williams 8.5. Komet 4.2. Zay Flowers in the flex goes for 13. El McPherson, your kicker, several field goals, couple 50-yarders, couple 40-yarders. He gets you about 19 or so points. And your Seattle Seahawks defense ended up giving up a lot of yards and points. Did win the game, though. Yahoo says 6. Looks like about a 12-point bump for you to 18 or so, Ed. And 231 was enough to get past I think, everybody this week. Yep, highest score of the week. Unfortunately for Possum Magic, he actually had Purdy go for 51.5. Amon-Ra, 19.5. Ridley, only 7. Nico Collins, 5.5. Pacheco goes for just under 16. Zach Moss, 25.5. Goddard, 9. London, 5. Dicker, hardly know her, about 3.5 points. And actually, no, just 3 because he didn't make any field goals. He had all PATs and 1 field goal miss. And you went with the Jacksonville defense. Didn't go with the Steelers defense at Las Vegas. Would have been a much better play because I think Jacksonville's defense, the score was 6. Steelers defense did way better. It would not have affected the outcome of this matchup, unfortunately. But Possum, as you know, as a longtime original member of the league, every point you can get accumulated to your standing there possibly has an effect somewhere down the line. So, even if it wouldn't have affected this matchup, any points left on the bench could always come back to haunt you later on in the regular season as we make our way towards the playoffs there in the seeding, or even just making the playoffs here. So, anyway, Ed Lager with the victory. He moves to 2-1. And thanks to this big score, he jumps up all the way to 2nd place. Possum Magic drops to 1-2, and he is all the way down now in 11th place. All right, then we've got Shawshank Athletics versus the Dub C Hooligans. Shawshank pulls off the victory here, 197.95 to 180.85. I believe Josh was done going into Monday night. Just looking at my notes here. And Kevin had A.J. Brown and Tutu Atwell. And the difference was about 56. Not impossible. Doable. However, unlikely. Kevin, you still definitely had a chance at this one. You needed about 26, 27 points from each of those guys. And, Brown got you 22. Atwell got you 17. So not quite there. So a 17-point difference there. Really, I would have to go back and look because I'm really kind of surprised that you still would not have won if you had started the Chiefs defense instead. I guess they didn't really have a lot of turnovers. They must have given up a lot of garbage time yards there, but that game was, not even close. But anyway, let's stop talking about Kevin, the loser of this matchup. Let's talk about the winner a little bit. All right, Josh, how's that sound? Herbert, 40 completions, 400 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 78.5 points. Garrett Wilson, just under 10. Judy, 13. D-Hop, just under 8. Derrick Henry, only 2. Kelly has been a huge disappointment there in place of Austin Eckler. Sorry, my eye is itchy. Anyway, these past 2 weeks he's been in there replacing Austin Eckler. He had a better game in week 1 when Eckler was still playing. Kelly only scored 4 last week and 3 this week. In basically getting all of Austin Eckler's job. I do not understand how that is happening. Very strange. Freiermuth goes for 13. Amari Cooper, 24.5. Moody, your kicker, goes for about 11. And then you also you have the San Fran kicker and the San Fran defense. Yahoo says 11. Looks like you got about a 25-point bump there. That really carried you through here. Your buns went crazy this week, Josh, getting you about 110, 115 points, something like that. You definitely needed it because outside of Amari Cooper, the rest of your team didn't do too much, but it was enough to get past the Dub C hooligans. Josh Allen goes for 42.5. AJ said AJ Brown 22.1. Keenan Allen, despite having Herbert's main target there, he goes for 50 points, 215 out of Herbert's 405 pass yards. So more than half of them went to Keenan Allen. 18 of his 40 completions, nearly half, went to Keenan Allen in this matchup. We often talk about how the way to defend yourself against someone's top-tier quarterback is to start their receiver against them. And it really... Josh, you really got lucky, I think, in this matchup that the rest of Kevin Bean's team did not come through for him. You said your quarterback got 78, but Kevin's receiver had 50. So doing the best he could there. So Brown, Tutu Atwell did 17.2. Stevenson only 7.2. Breida almost 11. Hawkinson just under 14. Gus Edwards 5. Koo, your kicker, only about 5, 5.5. And then your Jets defense, I believe that must have been the correct score, 6, according to Yahoo. Said Josh, you got pretty lucky, I would say, in this matchup. Said from the Herbert to Allen connection there, not ending up burning you. And despite only less than 5 points from your 2 running backs, the rest of the Dub C hooligans really let him down this week. Despite that, both of you are 2-1, sitting in good position. Josh, you are up in 3rd place now, while Dub C Hooligans drops a little bit down. I think he was in 3rd before Shawshank takes over 3rd, and Dub C drops down to 6th place. All right, what's next? We've got Gags to Riches versus Darkwing Jet. And Gags to Riches sneaks this one out, 159.25 to 142.75. All right, let's take a look at my notes here. Going into this matchup, Gags had about a 54-point lead. Justin still had his quarterback left to play, who could, in our league, a quarterback can wipe out a 54-point advantage pretty easily. He still had also Kyron Williams, who's been on fire lately, and the Philadelphia kicker, while Gags had T. Higgins and Chris Godwin. Looks like those two combined for about 12, giving Gags about a 60-something point advantage here. But unfortunately for Justin, Matthew Stafford had a pretty terrible game. Kyron Williams also didn't do too much, and you were not able to get what you needed from your Rams there. Definitely was attainable. You only lost by 17, less than 17. Just was not meant to be this week. Gags, he gets Tua going for 57.5. Justin did have his main receiver at 33.5 points there. Again, didn't come back to bite Gags too bad because Justin had some underperforming players down the rest of his lineup. T only goes for 4. Godwin only 8. Debo goes for 25. But I see he's got an injury now. He's got a rib injury, so we'll see what happens there. Miles Sanders, 17. Jerome Ford a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. He gets you 19 points. Hunter Henry goes for 3.5. Not even sure this guy's first name. Kendre Miller goes for running back for the Saints, goes for 4.5. Justin Tucker goes for 6. And the Arizona Cardinals defense. A matchup of defense versus defense, Arizona versus Dallas. And Arizona really just handed it to Dallas this week. Yahoo says 11. Must have been 14 because we didn't really bump you up too much there. Gags with your defense there. But it was just enough thanks to Tua's 58, Debo's 25 to get you past Darkwing Jet, who I believe, surprisingly enough, that was the correct score for the Dallas Cowboys defense. 2 points. In week 1, they scored 64. This week, 2. Stafford only goes for 30, like I said. Tyreek goes for 33.5. CeeDee Lamb, only 10.2. Lockett, only 8.5. James Conner, 19.5. Again, Kyron Williams, only 8.5. The first 2 weeks of this year, he went for 17 and 28. So disappointing. A lot of disappointing things there for Justin. Didn't quite go his way on Monday night. Waller, only 5. James Cook, 13.5. Elliott, your kicker, goes for about 11. But again, the Cowboys defense, only 2 points this week. And Justin falls. Funny enough, Justin Darkwing Jet drops to 2-1, while Gags moves up to 2-1. But Justin is still in first place, and Gags is in 7th place. And actually, Justin, the funniest thing about this is you were the team eliminated from the knockout pool this week. Week 1 was Detling. Week 2 actually was the defending champ. Biscuits and Porn was eliminated last week. And Darkwing Jet, you were eliminated from the knockout pool this week. But, so you had the lowest score this week, but you're still in first place, which is testament to just how good your first 2 weeks of the season were. So kudos to you there, Justin, on that, I guess. Staying in first place, at least for the time being. I'm sure you would rather be in the knockout pool still, because positions in the standings are going to shuffle all year long. People are chasing your tail. They're right on your heels there for the first place spot here. So tough to hold on to all year long. So we will see what happens. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, Gags, he moved to 7th place at 2-1, and Justin stayed in first place at 2-1. 7 of the league's 12 teams are currently 2-1. Then finally, we had Disco versus the Wizard of Winburg. Disco trying to get his first victory, while the Wizard was trying to move and stay the only undefeated team. Couldn't quite do it there on Monday night. Again, the disappointing performance there by Stafford really just didn't look good, much to the benefit of Disco and his Bengals defense. Jamar Chase had a big game there. Unfortunately, the Wizard of Winburg had Rashid White, who didn't really do much at all. And then Puka, after a couple big games, cooled off this week. Wasn't able to do much since Stafford struggled pretty bad and was not able to get it, make this one. It ended up being a lot. The difference ended up being a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Again, thanks to the Bengals defense there and the poor performance of the Rams this week. Justin and I both suffering from that. Anyway, it ended up being a 30-point margin here, pretty comfortable for Disco, 183.35 to 153.35. For Disco, Dak goes for 41. Gabe Davis, only one catch, but it was a touchdown, 10.5 points. Hollywood Brown, also a touchdown, 17 points. Elijah Moore, just under 12. CMC goes for just under 23. Gibbs, just over 9. Hayden Hurst, only 2. So Jamar Chase got you 26. Sanders, your kicker, he scores you exactly 10 points because he kicked 10 extra points. No field goals. And the Bengals defense, again, Yahoo says 18, but you got about, looks like a 15 or so point bump up to 33. So pretty good performance there. And it was enough to get past the Wizard of Winber. Goff goes for 41.5. Diggs, 19. DK, 17. Addison, 11. Tony Pollard, 18. Rashid White said 7.2. Mark Andrews, 7.5. Puka, only 12.2. McManus, my kicker, missed a couple kicks, made one field goal, only got me like 3. And then, again, a surprising, probably the most surprising thing in this matchup was Baltimore losing at home to Indianapolis Colts. Minshew did gift them a safety, but they didn't really do too much else, and actually ended up losing the game. Yahoo says 13. I think the actual score was 16. Was definitely expecting a lot more from the Baltimore Ravens defense this week, but it just was not meant to be. With the victory, Disco, he moves to 1-2. He is in 9th place, while the Wizard of Winber drops to 2-1, and he falls down to 4th place. All right, that is all of the matchups for week 3. As we said, Justin Darkwing Jet was eliminated from the knockout pool this week. So Yinzer Jags, Biscuits and Porn, and Darkwing Jet are the teams eliminated thus far. As I said, we have 7 teams who are 2-1. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 are 1-2. Only one game apart. One game difference between 11th place and 1st place. And getting gritty, the new guy, getting a little bit initiated, starting at 0-3, despite having a higher point total than 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys. But yeah, just the way it goes sometimes. You'll bounce back. We'll see what happens here. Obviously, it's still really early in the season, only 3 weeks in. Nobody is going to go undefeated this year. Probably unlikely that Getting Gritty stays in the winless department here. Let's take a quick look. I don't know, because at Yahoo's current projections, I don't think it's available on the app. I don't know how many of you actually see it on your phones there or anything, but Disco, who currently just got his first victory of the year, is at 1-2. According to Yahoo, Disco, you are going to finish 11-3 and first overall in the regular season. So Yahoo really loves your team. Something to be excited about. Will that actually happen? 11-3. Just think how bad you felt last week. But you got the victory, and now Yahoo says you're only gonna lose one more time the rest of this year. Between now and Christmas, between now and New Year's, you're only gonna lose one more time, according to Yahoo. You're gonna win 10 more times. That must be a pretty good feeling. Yahoo says Darkwing and Ed are going to finish 10-4. Second and third. Josh is going to be 9-5. Dub C is going to be 9-5. The Wizard and the Hillbillies are both going to finish 8-6, with the Hillbillies on the outside looking in 7th place there. Yahoo's got Biscuits going 7-7. Possum 5-9. Getting Gritty and Gags going 3-11. Well, he's got Yinzer Jags. According to Yahoo, Matt, you won the only matchup you're going to win all year this past week. Yahoo says you're going to go 1-13. So those are the current projections on Yahoo. Anyway, just in case there's no podcast again this week, let's see what the matchups are for week 4. If any of these said, this is kind of it's early in the season, obviously, but it's an important week because the difference between 3-1 and 1-3 said the wider that gap gets, the harder it is to crawl out of that hole once you're in it there. So let's see. We've got the Wizard going against Possum. Possum needs that to get back to even at 2-2. Wizard 2-1, so that could be a difficult matchup for Possum there. You don't want to drop to 1-3. We got Biscuits versus Gritty. Biscuits looking like a pretty heavy favorite according to Yahoo. It's going to be a tough matchup for getting Gritty to get his first victory. Don't want to start 0-4, but it's going to be a tough one there. Darkwing and Ed, 2-1s. One of you is going to definitely get victory number 3. Dub C versus Disco, another 2-1 versus 1-2. Disco, a slight favorite according to Yahoo going into this matchup as of right now. To Disco, you don't want to drop to 1-3. So falling behind there by 2 games from the rest of the league. Then we also got Gags versus Hillbillies. One of you is going to go to get your 3rd victory in 4 weeks. The current projections are the lowest in the league, though, 144 to 142. And then Yinzer Jags versus Shawshank, another 2-1 versus 1-2. So we have 3 of those this week. Shawshank looking for win number 3, and Yinzer Jags looking to avoid loss number 3. So, so we got Possum, Disco, and Yinzer Jags all looking for a win this week, and not falling a little bit further behind. As I said, the further behind you get, the harder it is to try to make up that ground later in the season. Of course, we haven't even gotten to bye weeks yet, so that's always throws a wrench in things as the regular season progresses here. So it's still pretty early. We got 10 plus weeks to go, so things can always change pretty quickly, and people can drop from the standings, and people who are at the bottom can move all the way up if luck will have it. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it for week 3 and a little bit of week 4 there. All right, guys, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. Kevin, I think it's down here this week. Looks like your dog just got so excited. Dropped a turd right down there. You might want to clean that up before the wife gets home. Yeah, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. May all of your players meet or exceed expectations this week. No injuries. Let's stop with these season-ending injuries here. And everyone has a great week. We'll see you back here again next week to recap the events of week 4. All right, guys. See you then. Bye-bye.